Hello, everybody. How you guys doing? My name is Mark. This is Why I Hate the World. What's happening? Lots of stuff to talk about today. Kanye West, the artist formerly known as Kanye West, now known as Ye, which I am not going to call his ass Ye. No, thank you. Is probably our most prevalent and I would say high profile anti Semite that is currently out there in the news. Kanye West is a black person, a black man, a rather famous artist um, who everybody thinks is a genius, which he really isn't a genius. But, it's undeniable that he has put out some bangers in the past. Right. Is a black person, and he's probably done more for the white supremacist, white identitarian, neo Nazi movement than anybody in the last 20 years. He has essentially mainstreamed anti Semitism at this point. Now, it is, the thing is, when I say mainstreamed, I don't mean that he's made it okay to be an anti Semite. That's not true. Right. And the kind of reaction that we get from most people when you hear about, oh, Kanye said this or that, or he said he loves Hitler, or he said that he loves Nazis, or blah, 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 blah. Whenever you hear something like that, the reaction that you get from most people is sort of like this guy is like a circus clown, right? That he's, losing his mind, right? And everybody is blaming his unchecked, mental illness. Apparently, Kanye West has bipolar disorder and he's not taking his medicine, stuff like that. Blah blah blah, right? The excuses usually is that people tend to make excuses for him because he is not what we typically associate with white supremacism or Nazis, right? Or anti-Semitism. Because when you think those things, we have, stereotypes in our heads. When you think white supremacist, you usually think, well, white person. That only makes sense. And it's true because if the people that Yi is advocating for, right, if they were to actually take power, there's no reason to think that Yi wouldn't be on that bus, I guess, train car to the concentration camp, along with all of the Jewish people that he keeps talking shit about. There's no reason to think that. Everybody knows that's what would happen. White supremacists and Nazis usually are not very amicable towards black people, right? So this is what's kind of causing that disconnect in people's heads. People are thinking, well, he must be mentally ill. He must be crazy because no black person would support Nazis. No black person would support National Socialists or white supremacists like that. It's like biting the hand that you know what I mean. It's sort of like putting the canary in the coal mine. There, it's like dressing the sheep in wolves' clothing, and that's what it's sort of like. Being a useful idiot, I guess, is the term, right? And the thing is that that's not necessarily the case. And it was a hedgehog. Hey, how you doing? Dunning Kruger, perhaps. Yes, maybe. Um, I do think that Yi is maybe just not intelligent enough to understand what he's actually advocating for. You know, Certainly, I think he's been radicalized by the likes of people like Nick Fuentes and others, right? Although the evidence is that Kanye's had these attitudes for quite a while. Apparently, there was a an interview in 2018 where he said all this stuff, and they had to cut it out. God, who was it with? It was an interview with who the fuck was it with? I can't remember. I'd have to look it up. But apparently there was some interview with some some TV show or something like that or whatever, and he said all of these same things. He's, I love Hitler, and he started talking shit about Jews and all that. And they cut all of this out at his request. He basically, at that point, hadn't gone completely off the rails, and then went to them later and said, "Hey, remove these things for me." So though, apparently, this is not a new, attitude that he's had, right? Anyway, thank you for joining, by the way, Lewis. Good to see you. So the thing about it is that, well, regardless of whether or not you believe he's mentally ill or if you believe he's being manipulated or whatever, he's doing more for the far right extreme white supremacist wing of politics in this country. He's done more to push that Overton window to the far right than anybody else. He's done more than Richard Spencer. He's done more than Nick Fuentes has, or Vox Day or any of those people, right? The reason why is because number one, he's not white, so that means that people are making excuses for him, like we just said, right? So people are trying to rationalize it away, and then there will be people who will see what he says, and through one reason or another, whether they're misinformed or whether whatever, they will agree with it. And this is very damaging when you have someone who's a pop star, a rapper, somebody who's on TV and music videos, because, you know, music, for those of you out there who haven't, realized this yet, is probably it's a very big influence on a young person's life, especially teenagers, right? That's one of the ways that you identify, like you create your identity is through music. It's not just, the way you dress and who you hang out with and the stuff you do, but it's mainly the music you listen to. What defines a clique mainly is the music you listen to and your friend group. And like, you guys like this guy, you like this artist, you don't like that artist. Shit like that. You like this kind of music, you listen to this music, you dress accordingly. That kind of thing. This is shit that this is one of the ways in which teenagers especially develop their personalities and how they will act and think for the rest of their lives. How many of you out there, when you were teenagers and you listened to punk rock, still to this day hold some of those tenets at the core of your very being? Punk rock tenets like individualism, that do-it-yourself attitude, the suspicion of authority, if not straight out rebellion against authority. How many of you out there who were into bands like, you know, I don't know, punk rock bands out there, right? How many of you out there listen to people like Dead Kennedys and shit like that? Like those types of, you know, or even like Rage Against the Machine. Although I don't know if you can call them punk, but you know what I mean, like that sort of anti-authoritarian, like politically charged punk music. Like how many of you people out there still hold those attitudes, like even today? For a lot of people, when you're that age, this is how you discover politics as well. You listen to a band, like No Effects or some shit, right? You find the politics they believe in because, many musicians out there are political. I mean, not all of them, but music by its very nature is political. You're usually, unless you're just listening to some song that's just about love songs or some shit like that, but usually there'll be a message, and, you start listening, that's how you develop your personality, right? One of those things. So how many young kids out there today listening to who are in their like early teens or whatever, are listening to Kanye West and starting to pick up on his like, pro-white supremacy message? How many of them are seeing him wear a t-shirt that says White Lives Matter with fucking Candace Owens or whatever, right? And then seeing him saying shit like, I love Nazis because I love everyone, that kind of thing. And going, yeah, maybe Nazis aren't so bad. Oh, Nazis invented microphones, really? Oh, Hitler invented the fucking highways? Wow. Maybe we owe them. Maybe they're not so bad. Maybe we should, when Kanye gets up and says, oh, Jewish people should forgive Hitler, you know, that influences people, right? And if you don't, if you learn the wrong thing, it's not, you hear people say shit like, if you don't learn about history, you're doomed to repeat it. Well, there's another, I think, competing axiom which we should also teach people is that if you learn the wrong things about history, you'll be doomed to repeat them as well, right? If we teach people that the Holocaust didn't happen, if we teach people that, oh, it didn't really like Kanye West says, oh, there really wasn't 6 million Jews killed, and stuff like that. If we teach people that the wrong history, right? If we teach people pseudo history, bullshit history that didn't actually happen, that's just as bad as not learning about it at all. It can be even worse in some regards. So this is why it's important. I already made 2 streams about Kanye West, and now I'm doing another one. This is why it's important because we need to fight the spread of fascism. And this is one of the ways that fascism spreads. I mean, Kanye is running for president, for fuck's sake. Many of you people out there are probably thinking he has no chance in hell, and I agree. I think that he's not going to get anywhere close to the presidency. But here's something that happened yesterday that I would like to share with you guys. Let me just put the link to this down in the thing here. Right? I just stumbled across this not even like a couple of minutes ago. Here's the link. Let's turn on our thing here. Okay, man assaulted in anti-Semitic attack in New York Central Park. Attacker yells Kanye 2024. Yeah. Let's read a little bit about this. I just saw this, so I haven't even read this article yet, so let's see what it is. 63-year-old man was assaulted in what police are calling an anti-Semitic attack in New York Central Park on Wednesday. Man was walking in the park when another man in his mid-40s allegedly ambushed him from behind, causing the older man to fall, chip his tooth, break his hand. Yeah, when you're in your 60s, if you just fall over, you can get fucked up. You gotta, you're old. I mean, shit happens. You gotta be careful. Suspect yelled anti-Semitic insults at the victim as well as Kanye 2024 before fleeing on a bicycle with an attached trailer that had a sign reading Hungary disabled, according to police. Suspect is still at large. Authorities are asking for the public's assistance. Wow. So, NYPD described the suspect as a man with light complexion last seen wearing a brown jacket, multicolored hat, beige pants, blah, 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 blah. So you get the idea, And then it goes on to talk about different things that Kanye said. We said, I love Hitler on the Alex Jones show, blah, 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 blah. So NYPD has seen an increase in overall hate crimes led by a sharp increase in anti-Semitic incidents in November. Just that's something, just in November. When did Kanye start losing his mind and going on his anti-Semitic hate tour? October. So, just recently, sharp increase. Department reported 45 incidents last month, up from 20 incidents in November 2021. Earlier this month, New York police arrested a man accused of firing a BB gun at a Jewish father and his son who were out grocery shopping. In a separate incident this month, grand jury indicted 2 men, one who is of Jewish descent, of a Holocaust survivor in connection with an online threat last month to attack a synagogue in New York City. Let's go ahead and turn this off. So you get the idea. Anti-Semitic hate crimes are on the rise in New York, right? In just the last couple of months, since a world-famous rapper with millions of followers and influence above and beyond, anything that any politician has started saying that, Jews are evil and that they control the world and shit. Just since that happened, anti-Semitic hate crimes are up. I'd like to see what it was like at a national level. Probably should have looked that up, but I didn't. Sorry. But just wanted to kind of show you that these things have consequences. Hate speech has consequences, right? And it doesn't matter if it's someone who we think is a clown. If you think Kanye West is a joke, that's fine. He is a joke. He's not going to become president. That's not going to fucking happen. In fact, if he actually got on the ballot in any state, I would be surprised. Right? I could pretty much bet that he will get less than 100,000 votes. I think like the last time he ran in what 2016, he got 60,000 votes or something like that. That's nothing. So he's got no chance of hitting the presidency, right? So there, he will never be in a position where he will actually be able to send people off to concentration camps and shit like that. But the real problem with him is the influence that he has on people and children, and specifically. But you see the guy that attacked him. What did they say? Mid 40s. I'm in my mid 40s. Right? Like, this is somebody like me that, I guess apparently this person may have been like a homeless person or whatever. Maybe not all the way there, mentally or whatnot, but we have no way of knowing that, right? And it's just, very, that's what makes it so dangerous, right? And, yeah, Kanye has felt some consequences from his speech. Apparently Kanye West is no longer a billionaire, or rather, I don't know if he's no longer a billionaire, but he lost roughly $2 billion in various deals since he's gone on his around the world anti-Semitic hate tour in the last 2 months. Losing his most importantly his deal with Adidas, so those stupid ass Yeezy shoes that are fucking infecting the world now are going away. Although they'll just keep the designs, they'll probably call them something else. They'll probably call them Breezes or something, and they'll keep selling them. But he lost his deal there. Apparently, he walked into a Skechers, tried to sell, like he went to like the headquarters of Skechers, and they kicked him out. Like he didn't even call ahead. He just showed up and was like, they said like get the hell out of here. So apparently he's not doing too well business wise, and then also claims that his accounts have been frozen, right? Although apparently he still has somewhere in the area of $400 million, so there's no reason to cry for Kanye West. But yeah, apparently his accounts have been frozen, he claims, because he's not paying his taxes or some shit like that. Of course, he's blaming that on Jewish people as well. Um, and because of this, he is now making the rounds on every single right wing like influencers podcast and like streaming show there is. So he went on Alex Jones recently, as we all know about. He went on a couple of other ones. And later on today, he actually went on Gavin McGinnis's show that I want to spend a little bit of time going over, because each one of these little interviews that he does, he just goes and digs that well deeper and deeper. And it's really, at this point, I'm comfortable calling him a Nazi. I am 100% comfortable calling Kanye West an actual bona fide Nazi, right? Now, some people may find that offensive because they think that he can't be a Nazi because he's not white. That's not necessarily true, right? Now, when I say Nazi, I'm not saying that he's a National Socialist, obviously, right? Or that he's going to walk around with a swastika or whatever. But, what I mean is he's ideologically aligned with Nazis. So why bother with the foreplay? Why not just cut to the chase and call him what he is? You know what I mean? The same way that, yeah, like if I were to call Gavin McGinnis a Nazi, or if I were to call Nick Fuentes a Nazi. Well, Nick Fuentes is not a national socialist, but he's actually a Christian nationalist. That's what Nick Fuentes is. He's a Catholic nationalist, which I guess falls under the banner of Christian nationalism. But potato potato. He believes in Nick Fuentes believes in essentially the exact same shit as Adolf Hitler does. All the same racist stuff, right? All the fucking crap about like racial superiority and with a religious tinge on it, right? And that's kind of where Kanye's at. Kanye, you would say, is a more closely aligns with Christian nationalism, right? Just with an anti-Semitic tinge. Right, and it's not that far away. It's really not that far away from what people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, I guess formerly the Greene, now that she's divorced or whatever. So Marjorie Taylor, the House rep from Georgia, or senator from Georgia or whatever. Is she a senator or a House rep? I don't know. I think she's a House rep, right? It's not that far away from what she believes, as a that's why, I mean, there's a reason why she was at Nick Fuentes' event speaking for him, at the America First PAC or whatever, because they align ideologically. They believe that, Christians should run the country and that they don't believe in democracy, right? Which is funny because they all want to get in government. The reason why do these people like want to get in government if they don't believe in democracy? It's to dismantle democracy. That's why they all want to get into government like that, right? And yeah, so it's like, God, man, I lost my train of thought. Anyway, but I wanted to talk about, like the reason why, if you find it offensive that I call him a Nazi, well, I'm sorry, but that's, what he more closely aligns with, you know, specifically fascism. Christian nationalism is a form of fascism, Christofascism. That's what it is, right? Now, I do want to give a little bit of history because there have been people who have aligned with Nazis and have actually been Nazis who are not white. That is not a unique phenomenon. Even way back in World War II, there were actually people who fought for the Nazis who were not white. And you would think, well, how does that match up with the whole Aryan, superiority thing, right? I want to show to you guys the Free Arab Legion. So I'm just going to go straight to Wikipedia for this one. We'll put this down in the chat for you guys. Here we go. That's the Free Arab Legion. And maybe we'll take a minute to look at this. I don't want to spend too long just reading from a Wikipedia article. The Free Arab Legion, collective name of several Nazi German units formed from Arab volunteers in the Middle East, and notably Iraq. Right. So basically, long story short, I don't want to read this whole thing. There was at the time the Kingdom of Iraq, right? And this is in 1941. And there were these sort of this group called here, this nationalist group, the Golden Square, who wanted to take control in Iraq and oust the British there. And so they aligned themselves with Nazi Germany so that they can get German and Italian support for their effort to oust the British, right? Excuse me, because the British were in charge in Iraq at that time. Of course, they lose, right? And the people that fought for them were absorbed into the German army. Excuse me. Long story short, I'm really condensing this down a lot. And they went on to fight in Greece against Greek partisans and stuff like that. Although they were never really in the front lines, apparently, in the war because the Nazis didn't trust them. So they sort of had them keep to rear guard, and they would do stuff like that. Like they would fight like partisan groups, that kind of thing. And then also, they were active in North Africa. God damn it! Excuse me for a second. My nose is really kind of. I'm gonna mute for 2 seconds here. Okay, that's better. Anyway, um, so you can kind of see, this is one of the groups here. These are. Wow, is that picture not going to open? Come on, open. What the hell? Did I just lose? Wait a minute. No, 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 no. Go back to the Free Arab Legion. Okay. Why did that not open? Come on, open up. There we go. So you can kind of see, here we go. This is the Free Arab Legion made up of North Africans, Arabs, right? Black Africans, stuff like that, right? You can see this is the patch that they wore here. You know, soldier from the Free Arab Legion in German occupied Greece. Apparently, that's where they saw most of their action in occupied Greece and also in North Africa. Soldiers of the Free Arab Legion distributing hand grenades. Oh, file cannot be displayed. Oh, well, you see the picture, giving out hand grenades and stuff like that. Black soldier. God damn it, how come we can't display that? Retry if it persists. Retry. Why is that not letting me show the picture? Just show me the damn picture. There we go. Here we go. So you can see there were actual dyed-in-the-wool black Nazis. Now, did these people ideologically align with the Nazis? Right? Well, I mean, we have no way of knowing if, let's go ahead and turn that off for now, if every single soldier there was a dyed-in-the-wool National Socialist who actually believed in Nazi ideals and including all of the racial stuff with it. No doubt some of these men just joined up because they wanted to fight for their country. No doubt some of these men just joined up because they needed a job and the pay was good. But apparently there was a significant number of people who fought in those units, right? Who agreed with the Nazi views, the National Social. Damn it! Turn this goddamn thing off. I wish I could. It's because I keep going over that and it grabs it. Anyway, but apparently there were quite a few men who fought in these units who actually went along with it because of anti-Semitism. You know, I mean, if you think that anti-Semitism among Arabs, among people of the Middle East and stuff like that, is a new thing that just started because of the state of Israel or whatever in 1948. I mean, you'd be wrong. It's like no, there's always been anti-Semitism there, especially right around this time. This right around this time where there were like the same conspiracy theories that we hear today about things like the Illuminati and like that kind of thing, and the protocols of the elders of Zion, shit like that. All of these same conspiracy theories that we keep encountering today, they were prevalent back then as well. In fact, they were probably a lot newer, and people weren't as familiar with them, and so they sounded a lot more plausible. So all of that shit was around, I mean, God, Henry Ford spread around the protocols of the elders of Zion, um, myth, right? Published it in his own fucking newspaper, apparently. So, yeah, those are actual, non-white Nazis who were real life, died in the wool World War II, bona fide Nazis who were not white, you know. Now, it, I would like to do some further reading on that to see exactly how the actual German, like, higher ups thought of these people. You would think that they would just treat them as cannon fodder or shit like that, right? But, apparently when there's a war and you need manpower, right, then you can overlook stuff like racism in order to get people to fight on your side. Apparently that's a thing. I don't know. So kind of like you know, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's also a big neo-Nazi sort of presence in South America as well. That's like a very big thing. What do you got here? Lewis the Hedgehog. Nazis believed in a racial hierarchy system. Not everyone was at the bottom, but the pure Germans were at the top. Yeah. I mean, from what I understand, though, like black people and Arabs were way towards the bottom of that hierarchy, right? Um, but yeah, I mean, that's the thing is that I don't think that even after the war ended, it's not like they would have given these people German citizenship or any shit like that. You know, it's not like I don't think they would have given any of these people any kind of special privileges or anything. I mean, you know, black people were sent to concentration camps in Germany as well. You know, like they were. It's not like black people were spared. I mean, it wasn't just Jewish people who went to concentration camps. It was, the Roma people. It was gay people, um, people with, even people with disabilities all went to concentration camps. And so it's like, Africans and, black people and stuff like that, they were sent to camps also, right? They wouldn't have been spared either. Um, did the Free Arab Legion actually agree with the Nazis on an ideological standpoint, or was it just because they were opposed to the British and that's it? Well, apparently that's how it started. Was that they were originally recruited to fight the British. And yeah, I think, well, we kind of talked about that a little bit. I mean, we have really no way of knowing, but apparently there were some people who were, in particular, anti-Semitism was one of the motivations, right, for some of them. So that's the thing is that we don't really, I mean, we have no way of knowing exactly, like, for every single one of them, but apparently that was a thing. Apparently there were, people who joined up in order to stop Zionism and shit like that, which was like, right around that time. I mean, there was a pretty big Zionist movement. I mean, the state of Israel was formed after World War II, you know. So it's and there was a lot of like propaganda as well, like a lot of Jewish, like anti-Jew, anti-Semitic propaganda and stuff like that. I want to talk a little bit about Nazis in Brazil because, yeah, there is. How does that look? Yeah, I don't know if I want to do that to every single one of those squares there. Maybe I'll just blend that in. So there was a very large um, German immigrant population in Brazil going all the way back to the early 19th century, like 1824, right around there is when Germans started immigrating to Brazil, right? And during World War II, the Nazis would recruit from um, this diaspora of German, speaking communities, right? Because mainly the German communities in Brazil would stay isolated to the south, the southern states in Brazil. They had their own little communities and stuff like that. So, Nazism in Brazil goes all the way back to World War II, right? So recently, though, I mean, you would think because most people, like roughly 50% of people in Brazil have some form of African ancestry in their past, right? You know, Brazil is a very, very racially diverse country. I mean, it's even more racially diverse in the United States. There are more black people in South America than there is in North America, right? Just to put it that way, like tons and tons of people, right? Um, but this has resulted in about over the last roughly 530 neo-Nazi groups in Brazil, right? And these are people who are not pure white, they're very ethnically diverse. There will be people who are of all races who identify as neo-Nazis, right? Although the majority of them claim to come from these southern German German communities, right? But in real life, they aren't. In real life, neo Nazis in Brazil are just sort of the same way that they are here. They're just usually outcast kids who fall in with, the wrong crowd, that kind of thing, right? Crime is really high in Brazil. There's a lot of gangs, stuff like that. You know, and it tends to plague, young people the same way that it does in the inner cities in the United States, right? So people fall in with the Nazis. It's like another gang. One thing of note is that it has increased in Brazil. In 2015, there were roughly 75 neo-Nazi groups in Brazil, and in 2021, there were 530. What could have caused that? Lots of different things. This sort of push to the right. I mean, we saw like right around that time, that's when Bolsonaro became president. So having a right wing sort of neo fascist leader of your country usually does a lot to increase hate crimes and stuff like that. I mean, we saw the exact same thing happen in this country after Donald Trump became president, and hate crimes went through the roof because now you have a guy at the national level on TV every day saying the exact same, that's the wrong color. You have a guy on TV every day saying, like, dog whistles and shit, right? Spewing your rhetoric, right? And just cleaning it up just enough to make it, like, still controversial, but to get it past the, get it past the TV censors or whatever, right? That's what happens when you have somebody out there screaming your dog whistles and stuff 24/7, tweeting shit like that, saying that we should throw people out of helicopters. Like that was a thing that fucking Bolsonaro said. um you know then you're going to get an increase in hate crime, and you're going to get an increase in groups that identify like that. And that's exactly what we saw, a corresponding increase in those types of right-wing fascist groups in the United States as well, right? Here's the thing that I want to show you guys, another article. Oh man. Okay, well this is not gonna let me open it because there's a Financial Times thing. Let me see if I can find another. Here we go. Full article. Let me go ahead. Challenges for anti-racists in Bolsonaro's Brazil. So we don't really need to read this, but I will put it down in the chat for y'all so that you can see where I got some of this information. There you go. Anyway, one of the takeaways from this article is that there were roughly, they estimate, 150,000 members of far-right neo-Nazi cells in Brazil. That is a shitload. Now, Brazil has 200 million people, so if you're looking at, percentage of the population, it's not very much, right? But still, 150,000 neo-Nazis. I mean, if that's true, that's astronomical. Uh, Estimates for the United States puts the number at around half of that, right? I mean, we got that, like, remember the Charlottesville thing? That was like as many people as they could get to show up, and there was maybe about 1,200 1,200 people at that whole thing, right? And that was something they advertised for days and days and weeks, and they can only get around 1,200 people to show up. So, you know, even if I mean, there's no way near 150,000 neo Nazis in the United States. So to have that many in a country of 200, I mean, that's gigantic. And I really, really hope that's not true, because that's like a lot that can cause a lot of problems. Even if they are all teenagers and shit, still pretty fucking bad. Here's something that I saw. So now, like, because we've been talking about, like, actual, Nazis from World War II, and we've been talking about shit like that. But that doesn't really explain how somebody, an average person who's not white would like, because you would think like it's like, okay, well, what about like just average fucking people? Like, I've never seen a black Nazi walking around, stuff like that, right? I just wanted to, here's a little video that I found that I think you guys may be interested in. This is from around 8 years ago. All right, let me just go ahead and post that. So 8 years ago is what, 2014, right in the middle of the Obama administration. Let me open up my thing here and turn on my display capture, and then we'll make this smaller so that we can watch it and not get kicked. This is a New York cab driver who was suspended from his job for wearing a Nazi armband, right? And this is not that long. It's about 8 minutes, so I think we could probably watch the whole thing. But I think it's fascinating because it gives an insight into how somebody who's not white can rationalize believing in a ideology which is contrary to his own like existence, right? So let's go ahead. This is from CBS News. Let's go ahead and check it out.
All right. So, you said, what do you think about wearing that? Did you mean to offend anybody?
I didn't mean to offend anybody. I'm just expressing my First Amendment, a freedom of expression. You know, if other people have the right to wear what they want to wear, then why not a National Socialist?
Well, you know what that means, right?
I know what it means. It is a symbol of National Socialism. The media portrays it as hate, but not to us. Not to us.
Who is...
Right. The media portrays it as hate, but not to us. National Socialism doesn't mean hate, apparently. So you can already kind of see some of the mental gymnastics this guy is doing. So first off, what he said is, well, I have a right to wear it. Well, you notice there that answer, right? Whenever somebody like the interviewer here, the news, the newscaster here, didn't ask about that. He asked, why are you wearing it? Not, do you have a right to wear it? Yes, you have a right to wear anything you want in this country. You know what I mean? In the United States. This is one of, the great things about the United States is that you could say whatever the hell you want. No one is allowed to tell you that you can't say it, right? And this is that sort of classic dodge that all the right-wingers always give. It's like, well, freedom of speech does not mean freedom from consequences. So he's pissed off because his job suspended him for wearing this. They didn't outright fire the guy, which you'd think they would. If he was white, he would have got fired. But since he's not a white person, right, he's like, walking around with a Nazi armband. His job is saying, hey, are you fucking crazy? Take that goddamn thing off. And they suspended him when they should have fired his ass, is what they should have done, right? So it's sort of like, but, they're taking the safe route or whatever, right? But that's the thing is that, that's always the dodge. I have a right to wear it. Well, we didn't say, do you have a right? We said, like, what's your reasoning behind it, right? So, anyway. And then the second thing where you just said right there, well, it's not about hate. Well, then what the fuck is it about? Like, why are you wearing it if it's not about hate? Like, it's, the Nazis are most famous for hate. I mean, when you think Nazi, what do you think? You don't think their uniforms. You don't think the Autobahn. You don't think Volkswagen. Those are all things that Nazis, contributed to society, I guess, if you want to say. Right? You don't think the assault rifle, the German, they invented the assault rifles, the first modern assault rifle. You don't think about that shit. You think about anti-Semitism, hate speech, the Holocaust, right? White supremacism. That's what comes to your mind. So, we don't think it's about hate. Well, then what the fuck are you wearing it for? Why do you think it's, what do you think it's about if it's not about hate? Let's see what the man has to say. I don't want to put words in his mouth here.
Us. The media,
Who is us? So you say us.
The media.
No, no, no. You're. I mean, are you?
Us, believers of the ideology, National Socialism. We don't call it Nazi. That's what you guys call it, Nazi. We call it National Socialism.
Okay.
But you know what happened under National Socialism, right?
I know what happened, but that is another subject. That is another subject. I just believe that we've been told lies about Hitler our whole life. But I don't want to talk about what allegedly.
We've been told lies about Hitler our entire life. Sounds a little familiar, don't it? Okay, this is 2014, not that long ago. Kind of sounds a little familiar. Kind of sounds exactly what Nick Fuentes and Kanye West are saying. We've been told lies about Hitler. Right? Okay, well, this is what you call the media are the ones who are saying that the Nazis are bad or that they're filled with hate. Okay, it's the media that did it. It's not, it's all lies. Right? These ideas are not new. Not new at all. Right? Anyway, moving on.
Had happened over there.
You're saying it didn't happen.
Well, I have no comment on that. I have no comment on that at this point.
Do you have the band with you?
I do not have the armband with me.
Do you wear it normally?
Once in a while, I wear it.
He doesn't want to comment on the Holocaust. Okay. Very wise decision for him because he knows it would make him look like a fool. And, remember he's on TV right now. But I think later on he actually does talk about it. Let's move on.
I mostly wear it inside of my house.
Why?
Because I'm a National Socialist.
What does that mean?
I believe in the natural order of things.
The natural order.
The natural order. We believe in reason and nature. We believe in survival of the fittest. We believe in all that other stuff.
The natural order, survival of the fittest, reason and nature. Mm-hmm. So what's the natural order according to Nazis? I mean, Lewis, you said it yourself. They believe in a racial hierarchy, right? The natural order, according to National Socialism, is people like this cab driver are on the bottom rung of the hierarchy, are they not? If the National Socialists were in charge of this country, this guy would not have equal rights if he were lucky enough to even be allowed to exist, let alone live in this country. He would be delegated to if they didn't just murder him right out or deport him or whatever, forcibly remove him from his house and his home or whatever, take his property, shit like that. If they didn't just straight up murder him, he would be forced to be part of a permanent underclass of essentially servants, slaves, right? That's what it would be like if Nazis were in charge. And it wouldn't have anything to do with who you were. It wouldn't have anything to do with what you actually accomplished in your life. It would have everything to do with what your skin color was and what your heritage is. And if you were born with a certain skin color and a certain ancestry, you'd be part of one class, right? And then other people who were born with other skin colors would be part of a different class, and there would be nothing you could do to address that. You would permanently be part of that class. You would never be able to get out of that, right? And that would be your lot in life, would be to basically be this permanent sort of slave second-class citizen if they allowed you to stay in the country at all, which I'm pretty sure that the majority of the country would be off limits to you, right? That's what National Socialism is, This man right here would have severely reduced rights, if any rights at all. Probably wouldn't have much in the way of rights at all, really, if they didn't just kill him, right? That's what he believes in. Why would someone with this man's skin color, who's obviously not a white supremacist, believe in this ideology? It doesn't make any sense, does it? Let's see if he explains himself. Let's see if he actually gives a reason and quits. Let's see if he stops dodging the "I have a right to do it," using the "I have the right to do it" defense, and actually gives a reason why he believes it.
National Socialists wouldn't have cared for you at all.
I don't understand that question. I don't know what you mean by that.
You mean, I mean, they believed in.
Let's listen to that one more time. Let's go back. All right, one more time.
You know, real National Socialists wouldn't have cared for you at all.
I don't understand that question. I don't know what you mean by that.
You mean, I mean, they believed in Aryan supremacy. They believed they exterminated people they didn't like.
Well, they believe in their race. You see, National Socialism doesn't teach you to have hatred towards others. It teaches you to have a love for your race, not against others. Whoever.
That's, yep. Oh, I don't understand that question. So when the guy says, "Hey, National Socialists wouldn't care for you at all," oh, I don't understand that. Right. And then, then he gives a bullshit justification. Oh, it means to love your own race, not to hate others. But that's not what happened. That's not what it's about. See, and there you go. This is disinformation. This is how it can hurt people. This is how, this is what happens when you teach the wrong history, when you teach misinformation and, as history. This guy doesn't even understand that the Nazis would have sent his ass to the gas chambers along with everybody else. He thinks that it's just about loving your race. It's not about hurting other people's races. When that's completely not true. What was that thing that, what was it? That there's a quote from General, what is it? Patton or Eisenhower, somebody who says when they came across the concentration camps, said take all the pictures and get the proof. I can't remember the quote exactly, but it was like something like take all the pictures because one day there'll be some dumb bastard who doesn't believe this happened, right? Well, there you go. Here goes the guy that doesn't believe it happened. He thinks that he'll be absolutely fine because it's about loving your own race. Okay.
Say you have to be white to be a National Socialist. You don't have to be white. It could be anybody.
6 million Jews were killed.
I have no comment on that right now. I have no comment. I do not want to comment on that. That is another subject. That's another subject. I do not want to comment.
You were wearing that on your forearm so people would see it, didn't you?
I do. I did.
And you know what it means to most people?
Yeah, to them it means hate. But I have a First Amendment. I have a right, so I get to, I should be able to wear whatever I want to wear no matter how.
Once again, back to the free speech dodge. To them it means hate. And then also, just doesn't want to talk about the Holocaust. Okay. It's because he doesn't actually have a reason, because he knows that, first off, if he does it, it's going to make him look crazy. It's going to make him look more more hateful and shit like that than he already is. Right? And secondly, it's probably because he probably doesn't believe the Holocaust happened at all. I mean, let's be real here, folks. Guys like this don't put on Nazi armbands for no fucking reason. If he actually knew the goddamn truth, he wouldn't be walking around with that shit. At least you would think, right? You would think. But apparently no. It's strange. It doesn't seem to make any sense. It seems like, to all of us who have had proper educations and who have actually read a history book now and then and know what actually happened, it doesn't seem to make any sense, does it? It seems like we're in some kind of alternate universe. The cognitive dissonance and shit just fucks you up. It's like, how can somebody be so stupid? But real life is not, real life doesn't always align to what you think it should, right? Moving on.
How offensive it is.
But you're not doing it in the cab anymore, are you?
I'm not doing it in the cab anymore. I told them that I apologize, that I surrender my license to be suspended, and then I'm only suspended for 30 days.
Are you suggesting Hitler was right or that the Holocaust didn't happen?
I have no comment on that. I have no comment. Like I said, that is another subject, and I have to go in depth on that. I am not going to talk about that right now.
It sounds like you're a Nazi.
I am. I'm a National Socialist. What you guys call a Nazi. I am. I'm a believer of it.
A lot of people are going to be really upset by that. I mean, we fought a war over that.
Yeah, you know, aren't a lot of people upset because homosexuals run around freely with their gay flag and their speedos and dancing like this and saying that I'm proud to be gay? Why can I say that I'm proud to be a Nazi? What you guys call it?
Okay. Now you see the reason. All right, now it starts making sense, right? So that's how somebody who would obviously be harmed by this ideology can get on board with the ideology. The Nazis hate somebody that he hates, right? He doesn't like gay people, so he's gonna go ahead and join up with them because they hate gay people too. How it can't get any more simpler than that, huh? You know, that's all it took. He saw some people that hated gay people, right? And he wanted to hate gay people, and he wanted to be in a group of people that hated gay people, and that's really all it took was to join up. And it's like, just hand wave away the fact that they would kill you if they ever took control. That if he ever walked up to a group of neo-Nazis wearing his armband and said, "Hey guys, let me join you," they would laugh as they beat the crap out of him and curb stomped him, right? Never mind all that shit. Never mind the fact that if he were to go back in time and like try to join up with the Nazis, they'd shoot him and it would laugh as they did so, you know, and that in real life they value this man's life as much as they value, you know, any of the other, what do they call them, Ubermensch, the subhumans. What do they call anyone who wasn't Aryan? They called him a subhuman, right? Never mind all of that shit. They hate gay people. I don't like gay people either, so I'm gonna join up with them. That's it. That's the rationale. So that's the thing, is that we got to think about, like, well, why is Kanye West saying all this shit, right? Why are there Nazis in Brazil, right? Why did actual black people join up with Nazis and fight in this Free Arab Legion? Why are there people who are minorities who believe in ideologies which is directly opposed to their very existence? You know, that's why. There's no deep, you know, mystery about it. There's no further, like, you know, there's no like psychological, like, you know, maybe it's Stockholm syndrome. No, they hate people. These guys hate the same people they hate. Mystery solved. Seriously, it's so simple. It's fucking ridiculous. I don't know. Moving on.
You knew it was a poor choice, right?
A poor choice for what?
To wear a Nazi armband in a New York City cab.
Well, maybe for you guys, but, you know, if they want to suspend me for wearing a Nazi armband, why don't they suspend a Muslim for wearing a turban? Why don't they suspend a Muslim woman driving a cab or wearing a burqa? They should suspend them if they want to suspend me.
At the very least.
Yep. He's anti-Islamic as well. What's wrong with wearing a turban? What's wrong? Are those hate symbols of hate speech? You know, that's another dodge, by the way. The it's all equal dodge. You know, the both sides do it dodge. What did you just say right there? Right. Well, this guy's wearing a turban, or this woman's wearing a burqa. You know, how come they don't get suspended? Trying to compare him wearing a Nazi armband to somebody wearing religious headgear, or just any, you know, thing at all. It's like, why is that? Why are these things, you know, comparable? These are not comparable things. Okay, wearing a turban is not giving a message of hate. but to him it is because he's a fucking anti-Islamic, right? To him, any expression that someone is not a Christian is not a like any expression of somebody who's like is like a Muslim or something like that is the exact same thing as wearing a swastika. It's an expression of hate. You know, doesn't seem to make any sense, does it? Like, if you were to go to, oh, I don't know, Iran and walk around with a crucifix, what do you think would happen to you, right? Do you think you would get, I mean, especially if you were a foreigner, I mean, yeah, you'd probably get in trouble for just wearing that, right? You know what I mean? Just wearing a crucifix. Why? Because Iran is a theocracy. It's a theocracy where you don't have freedom, right? But more so than that, it's because, but the thing is that you wouldn't be thrown in jail for, like, promoting hate speech or anything like that. You know what I mean? Like, it's not a political ideology. Like, they wouldn't throw you in jail for like, I guess what would be the crime, like, for what do they call it when you sedition? It wouldn't be that. It would be some fucking, like, anti-Sharia kind of stupid ass law that doesn't make any sense, right? But that's what he's trying to say. He's basically trying to say that it's a religious symbol that he's comparing, but he's also comparing their religious symbols to his political speech. These are like different things. Number one, right? But it doesn't, like, so that's kind of like another dodge that, well, trying to say that it's all the same, that these are just two sides of the same coin, that, well, if they're going to wear a burqa, I get to wear a swastika. It's like, well, no. Wearing a burqa doesn't mean that you want to murder anybody. Wearing a swastika does. Right? Wearing a swastika comes with it, like, fucking, like, hate speech and anti-Semitism and Holocaust denial, and all that shit comes with wearing a swastika. None of those things come with wearing a burqa or a turban. You don't even have to be a Muslim to wear those things. I mean, sheiks wear turbans and shit like that. It's like, so that's another. You hear that from white supremacists and shit all the time. Where they talk about, like, how it's like, trying to come up with some way of justifying, and it's bullshit. It's a bullshit dodge. Right. Like, anyway, let's move on. I'm rambling a little bit.
It's a poor business decision.
Yeah, because I have, I'm not supposed to be mixed business with pleasure. But like I said, if I'm not supposed to make business with pleasure, then a Muslim not supposed to wear his turban while driving.
That's a religious thing.
Well, if it's a religious statement, then it's a political ideology. I'm entitled to it.
What do you believe in? Do you not believe in democracy?
If it's a religious statement, it's a political ideology. I'm entitled to it. See, it's all the same to him. There you go. Like, he expressed it way better than I just did. Then that's exactly what I was trying to say. He's comparing his religious, someone else's religious religion to his political ideology. It's like, no, that's not the case. That's not it at all. I mean, it's complete fucking, I don't know. There are a degree, I mean, just because, like that's, it's sort of like an excuse because people forgive it when it's part of your religion, right? Like, people will say, okay, well, you can wear that because it's your religion says you're allowed to wear that, whatever it is. Like, for example, sheiks will have a ritual dagger that they're supposed to wear. Right, Sikhs, excuse me. I mispronounced that. Supposed to have a ritual dagger that they wear, and most of them will have, like, a little pin or something. But some of them will actually have an actual dagger, And they're allowed to, because it's part of a religious thing, they're allowed, for example, to bring it on airplanes and stuff like that, right? And you occasionally hear about a story about a guy who's a Sikh, something like that, and getting stopped at an airport or not being allowed to bring it inside of a concert, some shit like that. And it's like, well, no, this is a religious thing. I have to carry this dagger, right? That's protected First Amendment, like religious protection, right? He's trying to say that, well, that's wearing a swastika should be akin to that, and that's bullshit. Complete 100% grade A bullshit. You know, because it's basically it's an excuse. It's a dodge. It's like a way of without having to um without having to try, well, I guess trying to skirt around the political and historical context of that symbol, you know. So I guess if somebody creates the Church of National Socialism, then I guess maybe maybe they could I don't know, claim it's a religious symbol, but until that happens, it isn't. It's fucking bullshit, you know.
Well, I don't think America is a democracy. It's a republic, but National Socialists don't believe in democracy. We don't know. They believe in a natural order, natural
Democracy. Of course they don't. I mean, I like how mask off this guy is. National Socialists don't believe in democracy. Yeah, we know. I mean, I guess we can give the guy credit for not trying to bullshit us into claiming that he does believe in democracy or that he does believe in equality or anything like that. Right? So kudos for him for being honest, at least, that, he believes what he believes in is fucking dictatorship and removing people's rights. That kind of thing. And an honest asshole is still an asshole, by the way.
hierarchical order.
A natural order.
A natural order, hierarchy, with the government servicing the people, letting them to live amongst their own kind.
And where do you think you're going to fall in that natural order?
The government servicing the people, letting them live amongst their own kind. So what if you don't want to live amongst your own kind? Right? What if you want to live, let's say, I don't know, you're a white man and you have a black wife. Your wife is black, What if you don't want to live, but the government says you have to live amongst your own kind. You have to go live in the white quarter of the city. What if you don't want to do that? Would you be allowed to do that according to this government? Because according to him, there's a natural hierarchy. And one of you is going to be higher up on that hierarchy than the other. So what happens in that case? I'll tell you what happens in that case. They drag your wife off, throw her in a concentration camp, and probably sentence you to years of hard labor for breaking the law. Right? Because it's not about democracy or freedom. I mean, he just even said it's not about democracy. So you wouldn't even get a choice in whether you liked that or not. This wouldn't be a law that anybody voted for, right? They would be imposing this upon you because they don't believe in democracy. That's exactly what would fucking happen. This guy doesn't seem to see that. Of course, this dude has probably never been laid in his entire life. Nazis do not tend to have relationships with women very much. Just look at Nick Fuentes. Anyway, moving on.
Where do you think you're gonna be? You're gonna be in the top or the bottom?
Well, I really don't know. That's something I had to make that decision on my own. But this has, I wear because I just simply believe in it. We've been told lies about Hitler. We've been told lies about National Socialism. We've been told lies about everything. We're not,
You're an admirer of Hitler?
I have no comment on that.
Yep. He was about to say yes. He was about to say yes. Let's not bullshit ourselves. But, see, it all sounds a little familiar, doesn't it? all of this shit this guy is saying is stuff that Kanye West is saying as well. We've been told lies about Hitler. We've been told lies about the Holocaust. Guy asks him, do you admire Hitler? And he wants to say yes so hard, but he knows that if he says that it's just gonna fuck him up in the future. So he's like, I have no comment on that. If you didn't admire Hitler, you would say no. Okay? If you thought Hitler was bad, you would say, no, I don't admire Hitler. Right? So obviously, yes, the guy fucking admires Hitler. It's it's just, it's ridiculous, man. It's absolutely ridiculous. There's a few minutes left on this, but I'll leave that for you guys if you want to watch the rest. I do want to take some time for the last hour here because there was. Let's go ahead and turn this off for now. Let's get rid of that. There was an interview with Gavin McInnes had with Kanye West. Right. Now we just watched, about 5 minutes of some rando New York cab driver, a nobody out there, you know, 8 years ago. Someone who's obviously not the brightest bulb in the socket, right? Excuse me. Ramble on for 5 minutes talking about how he loves being a Nazi. And we got a little bit of his motivations. Why doesn't he like being a Nazi? Because he doesn't like gay people. He doesn't like Muslims. Right? That's why the guy's a fucking Nazi. And I want to play this interview here. I'm not going to put a link to it because it's an Odyssey site or URL, but you can find it. It's if you really want to find this, it's go to Odyssey, search for Saving Ye, Gavin McInnes interviews Ye and Nick Fuentes, and you'll find it. Okay. Odyssey, for those of you out there, is sort of like white supremacist YouTube. Although there's also a lot of movies up there on Odyssey that you can watch for free for some reason. Like, people have illegally uploaded a shitload of movies. Right? So, that's a good place to find stuff. But yeah, this is where, let's go ahead and turn on our thing again here. This is where people like, you know, Nick Fuentes and Gavin McInnes and Alex Jones and shit go to spread their bullshit. Right? So, those of you guys who don't know, Gavin McInnes is the founder of the Proud Boys. So that wonderful group of concerned American citizens who go out and beat up gay people and black people and, etc. Right? That's where they came from. The Proud Boys were started by Gavin McInnes. They are based on a song called Proud of Your Boy. That's where the name comes from. From the Aladdin stage show. Right? It's not even a song that was in the movie. It's in the fucking stage show. That's where it came from. The name comes from fucking a Disney production. Right? And, I've done several streams on these guys in the past and what they're all about. They part of the initiation is getting like jumped in while you like recite 5 of your favorite breakfast cereals or some shit like that, whatever. They've since kind of moved on from McInnes. I guess McInnes tried to like disassociate himself with him from them because they were cramping his style. Like, basically he was not being like received well in rich people's society because of his association with the Proud Boys. So they've kind of moved on from him. I don't know how much of his involvement like he actually has with the group. How much involvement he has with the group, Still seems to be mostly ideologically aligned with them though. Proud Boys have basically gone on to become a fucking terrorist group essentially. Like some people, like some places you'll see them kind of like described as a street gang, but no, they're more like a militia now. They show up armed to things like drag shows and shit like that nowadays. They were a big part of like during 2020 and 2019 They were a big part of like anti-protests against like, Black Lives Matter, stuff like that. Most recently in Colorado, they showed up outside of a church, United something or other church, United Methodist, I think. Anyway, Unitarian Church, that's what it was. Outside of a Unitarian church that was hosting a drag event, along with members of the Patriot Front, and they were armed basically to protest against a drag show that was being held there. The show, by the way, was, for like, it was like a family friendly thing. There was no like, you know, nudity at all. When they say family friendly, that's what they mean. No nudity, no people walking around with their fucking like, boobs hanging out, shit like that. But because they've jumped straight in with the whole groomer bullshit that you see from like right wingers and shit, they're part and parcel on that. So yeah, Proud Boys have kind of evolved past McGinnis, but he's still kind of a white supremacist asshole. And I would like to see how much influence he still has on the group. I know he doesn't run it anymore. It's actually run by a guy named Enrique Tarrio, who's in prison, I believe. Enrique Tarrio's in prison now. He was put in jail because he was going to take place in the January 6th riot, but he was like banned from entering DC by court order or something like that. So he went to Washington D.C. and now is now in jail. So anyway, Gavin McGinnis is going to, let's make that a little smaller so I don't get content struck or whatever. Gavin McGinnis is going to interview Yee. Let's see how this goes. Okay.
All right, shall we start?
I think we shall.
Yay! Nick, we're here. So this is Saturday afternoon, 2 days after the InfoWars.
Of course, Nick Fuentes hanging out like a sort of like a little puppy dog, dragging Yee around. Kanye around by his leash or whatever. It's funny how Kanye's so like against claiming the Jewish influence and all this other crap, but he's like got this little fucking lapdog with him whispering in his ear like fucking worm tongue from like Lord of the Rings or whatnot. Once again though, before we get into this, I don't want to blame anybody but Kanye for Kanye's like speech. Okay. So whether you think the guy's like mentally unwell or whatever, that doesn't matter. Even if he is, we should still hold the man accountable for what he actually says. We shouldn't try to blame anybody else. It's not Milo Yiannopoulos' fault that he thinks these things. It's not Nick Fuentes' fault that he thinks these things. It's his fault. He's a grown man, and even if he is, bipolar or whatever, he's aware of his illness and is choosing not to do anything about it, choosing not to go on his medication or whatever, right? So we gotta, when the man says something, we should believe what he says. That's what I think. Of course, he's still wearing this stupid fucking mask. I don't know what that's all about. I'm sure there's probably a reason why Yee wears the goddamn mask. Anyway, let's watch a little bit more of this
Interview, and I was just telling you before we started filming that we were watching it at home, and Ryan and I were just looking at each other. About every 20 minutes, we'd look at each other and just go, "Whoa!" Like, this is a big deal. This was an event, and I think that there's a spectrum of reactions, of course, and the biggest reaction, the most positive one, is it's the craziest, most punk rock thing since the Sex Pistols got kicked off the Bill Grundy show. But on the other end of the spectrum, people are saying this is bad for a presidential campaign, to say the least. Where do you stand on that spectrum?
What the fuck kind of question was that? Number one. All right. So first off, Gavin McGinnis is. Oh my god. First off, he's gained a lot of weight. Have you noticed? Double chin going there. But anyway, just the framing of that. I want to take a minute to talk about that. What he just said. This is the craziest, most punk rock thing since the Sex Pistols. What the fuck is he fucking talking about, right? I guess he must mean counterculture. Shocking counterculture thing. Because, white supremacism, Nazism is sort of counter to what punk rock stands for, right? Because when I guess if you're using punk rock in a as like a verb, or well, not even a verb, like an adjective for something that's against the grain, I guess, yeah, by that definition it probably is, because being an anti-Semite, being a fucking Nazi, is kind of most definitely against the mainstream grain. It's definitely something that's not acceptable by the mainstream. But it's sort of like I don't like it when people try to try to claim that, like, for example, there's this saying that conservatism is the new punk rock or whatever because it's against the mainstream, and it's like, well, no, no. I mean, because that's the thing about it, is that punk is not as has not and has never been just about shocking people. It's never been just that. It's that came as a consequence, and yeah, sure, like the whole, like, the way punk, the dressing with the spikes and the liberty spikes and the fucking armbands and the torn up clothes and shit like that and makeup, whatever, right? Tattoos and shit. People didn't do that just to shock people, like just to shock the squares. You know what I mean? Like, or whatever, the normies, I guess is what you would call them nowadays. You call them normies nowadays. It was never just about that. It was never just about dressing up. It was about self-expression, right? And it was about not just, like the thing about punk rock in contrast with, like, say the hippie movement that came directly before it, right? Is that hippies and like, it was all about peace and love and getting along and you know sort of using peace to establish yourself, right, and gain respect. And punk is more about taking respect. Like, I'm not gonna, like, punk is more about, I don't give a shit what you think, I'm gonna do my thing. That's the most punk rock thing. Like, that's the spirit of punk rock right there. Is individualism, right? Which is funny because then it's sort of like any sort of, you know, popular movement or philosophy. It becomes highly, like, commercialized, and that's why when they say punk is dead, they're referring to the commercialization of punk rock, right? Because when you have, your little chicken McNuggets with, like, mohawks grinding to their little McNugget thrash band or whatever, it kind of loses the meaning. The whole point of it was, this is my life. You know, I deserve respect, and I'm gonna do what I want. And if you don't like it, you can kiss my ass. That's the whole point behind it, right? It has never ever been about Nazism. In fact, ever since the beginning, whenever you would see these Nazi punks would show up, they would try to co-opt that into white supremacism, and there has always been a major pushback against those guys, even from the very beginning, even way back in the 70s and 80s. When you would see, like, Nazi bands and shit show up, there would be fights and stuff like that. People pushing back against them. Nazi punks, fuck off. right? Because, so, I mean, yeah, when Gavin McInnes is characterizing this as like, you're punk rock, it's like, no. No, 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 no. There's nothing about what Kanye West is doing is punk rock. It's the antithesis of punk rock because the main thing about Nazism, the main thing about anti-Semitism, about racism, right? Racism is not about self-expression. It's not about like racism is the antithesis of individuality, right? Racism and anti-Semitism and white supremacism is about conformity. First and foremost, it's about conformity. And why do you not like people that are not like you? Because they're not conforming to what you want, right? Punk rock is anti-conformity, 100%. And, you know, spewing a philosophy of conformity and claiming that it's anti-conform, like, no. Because what? Because the mainstream doesn't like it? That's not punk rock. That's fucking stupid. That's just... So, yeah. Gavin McInnes, the way he's characterizing this is, in my opinion, the dumbest fucking thing ever. Just wanted to comment on that before we go on. Let's move on a little.
I think it's awesome for a presidential campaign.
Yeah?
To have someone that's honest, that understands the state of the world, and that's ready to listen to what the American people need.
But Hitler's got a pretty bad reputation.
Someone who's honest and understands the state of the world. Yeah, okay. Kanye West understands the state of the world, man. Get the fuck out of here. This is fucking delusional. And that's the other thing that really gets me about all this is just how delusional this man is. Like, does he actually think anybody's gonna vote for him? Does he actually think he has a chance of actually winning? I think he does. I think part of the thing that comes with when you have a psychotic break like this is that your ego is super huge. And you think that, not only do you think that your shit don't stink, it's like you don't understand how anybody could not, like, agree with you. And it's like, I think I think he's going to be in for a rude awakening on, January, November 5th, 2024. Oh, shit. Step backward. When he gets, like, fucking 15 votes or whatever. Right. Let's move on a little bit.
Reputation.
Well, who made that reputation? That was made by Jewish people.
Well, the murdering Jews was a pretty...
That sounded familiar, didn't it? Let's rewind that just a little bit. Let's listen to that one more time, because I was talking.
Where do you stand on that spectrum?
I think it's awesome for a presidential campaign.
Yeah?
To have someone that's honest, that understands the state of the world, and that's ready to listen to what the American people need.
But Hitler's got a pretty bad reputation.
Well, who made that reputation? That was made by Jewish people.
Well, the murdering...
Who made that reputation? Sounds a little familiar, doesn't it? That kind of sounds just like the thing that cab driver said, doesn't it? Right? When they said, when he said that the media was the ones that made, the reason why people don't like Nazis. When he said the media is the one that gave Nazis a bad reputation and have spread lies about the Nazis and Hitler and the Holocaust. Lo and behold, 8 years later, Kanye West saying the exact same fucking thing. Oh, well, the Jewish people gave the Nazis this reputation. It's like, where do you think Kanye got that idea from? I mean, kind of sounds like these two men were radicalized in a very similar way, is what I'm saying. Because if you were to go online like that, what he just said, what Kanye West just said is a basically National Socialist talking point, right? So, and we heard it from a genuine Nazi himself. We heard the exact same point. I mean, that cab driver said that he was a Nazi, right? Kanye West is spreading Nazi, actual National Socialist, actual Nazi talking points. So, I mean, folks, is it fair to actually call Kanye West a Nazi? I mean, if it walks like a duck, right? Kind of sounds like it is. Moving on.
Murdering Jews was a pretty big part of his bad reputation.
Yeah, but some of it's incorrect. Also, the Holocaust is not the only Holocaust. So
Okay.
for them to take that and claim, we have abortion right now. That's eugenics. That's genocide. That's a Holocaust that we're dealing with right now. So because Jewish people control the majority of the media, along
Jesus.
with banks, along with real estate, along with
All right. How many fucking dog whistles can you throw in at once? Seriously, how many fucking dog whistles can you throw in at once, man? Like, okay, so God, where do you even start? The Holocaust was not the only Holocaust. He stepped back a little from claiming the Holocaust didn't happen. On the Alex Jones show, he straight out said the Holocaust was like, that there were lies about the Holocaust and that 6 million people were not killed. It's true, 6 million people weren't killed. It was more like 12 million, right? Because it wasn't just Jewish people. It was also Romani, it was black people, it was homosexuals, you know. So that's the thing, is that, yeah, the Jewish people were not the only victims of the Holocaust. The Nazi perpetrated Holocaust. That's definitely true. But Kanye's saying, oh, he's not the only Holocaust. Well, we don't see you, Kanye. You notice Kanye's not talking about, like, say, the Armenian Holocaust. He's not bringing that up. He's not talking about, like, the genocide in, like, Rwanda or something, right? Or in the Belgian Congo, or any of these other genocides that have happened over history, or, the genocide of Native Americans, or, nothing like that. He's not bringing any of that shit up. Because he doesn't actually care about those things. He doesn't actually care about those people. He doesn't actually give a fuck. What he cares about is diminishing the Nazi, perpetrated Holocaust in the 1940s against Jewish people, right? That's what he's really, because this is another trick that you get from white supremacists and Nazis. When you talk about the Holocaust, right? Part of Holocaust denial, the rhetoric of Holocaust denial, is to, first off, belittle it, claim it didn't happen, claim that the numbers were reduced in some way, that it wasn't as bad as they said, that, oh, see, these gas chambers, they were just delousing people. That's what Zyklon B was for. It wasn't actually to poison anybody and kill them. It was just because they all had lice. Right? Shit like that. This is what, this is Holocaust denial, XY, 1, 2, 3 right here. Right? This is like how they go about it. Excuse me, burping and shit. This is like, straight out of the playbook. Right? Because the whole point of Holocaust is to put doubt. That's the entire point of Holocaust denial, is that you doubt you create reasonable doubt of the official narrative. Oh, it wasn't this many people that died, it was less. Oh, it was really 4 million. Oh, it was really 1.3 million. There's no way it could have been 6 million. You couldn't kill that many people. That's too many people. You'd have to kill 5,000 people a minute for fucking 10 years straight or some shit like that in order to reach that point. Right? So it's to create reasonable doubt, and then you belittle it. Oh, it wasn't so bad anyway. Oh, well, they had swimming pools at Auschwitz. Right? That's something you hear a lot. Oh, there were swimming pools at Auschwitz. Oh, they had free beer. Oh, there was a fucking, there was a theater at Auschwitz. All this other crap. And it's like, well, yeah, but there were theaters. There was a theater and a swimming pool for the actual Nazi guards there. The fucking inmates who were, like, being worked to death and, like, fucking systematically, eliminated in industrial gas chambers. Those people didn't get to, like, partake of any of these perks. They forget to mention that part. Okay. So then they diminish it. And then the next step after that is to say that it just didn't happen, you know, right? Or first off, well, the first step will be also that they deserved it. That'll be another. That's another little step in there. Oh well, they ruined the German economy or whatever. Oh, how come every state always kicks Jews out or whatever? Blah 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 blah. You know, because they run everything, etc. Maybe they deserved it. And then the next step is to say it didn't happen at all. It's all lies. You know, the media is lying to us about it because the media is controlled by Jews. You know, this is fucking. It's Holocaust denial 101, and he's going through all the steps. You know, I mean, it's shit that I've seen 100 times on forums and websites throughout the years. You know, every time you get like a forum or a bulletin board or a website or anything like that, or a subreddit, you know, or a Discord server, anything like that that isn't properly motivated, and white supremacists come and show up and they spread all of this hateful bullshit, and it's the same shit every fucking time. That's how, you know, that's probably how Kanye West got radicalized. That's probably how that cab driver got radicalized as well on the internet. You know, probably one step at a time through looking at memes and shit like that, you know, and then like engaging in discussions where in unmoderated places like 4chan, places like fucking the Donald on Reddit, that kind of thing. And then before you know it, you know, before you know it, walking around with fucking Nazi armbands denying that the Holocaust happened. That's radicalization. It can happen to you, and you don't have to be white for it to happen. You don't have to be, you know, ideologically aligned. I mean, here's the thing about Kanye West, right? He got, you know, remember way back in 2006, 2005, Hurricane Katrina, George Bush doesn't care about black people. That was Kanye West back then. Something has definitely shifted in the 17 years since. Let's watch a little bit more of this. It's only been 5 minutes. And I've already talked a lot of shit, so let's listen to a little bit more.
You know, malls, they can control the narrative. Like, history is written by the winners. They were upset that Hitler was kicking them out of the country. By the time, I mean, the Holocaust, there's only 250,000 Jews left.
Well, really diving into it here.
I mean,
he did it. That's another one. Oh, see, he couldn't have killed that many because there was only 250,000 Jews left. So obviously the Holocaust didn't happen the way they say. It's like by the numbers. That's the thing about it, is that it's what he's doing is so by the numbers for like Nazi fucking talking points. It's like he has the Nazi playbook in front of him. Like that book right there, whatever it is like fucking Mein Kampf. Like if you were to write a textbook, how to turn someone into a Nazi, 3 easy steps. And straight up read from it. This is what you'd be reading. It's unbelievable. How, I mean, come on, can I call him a Nazi yet? You know? Can I call him a Nazi? He's saying all the exact same shit that the Nazis are. Am I allowed to call Kanye West a fucking Nazi? I don't know. I think so. Moving on.
yeah, let's get into real information at this point. You know, what did they think were going to happen? Matter of fact, it's like, I think the Jews are like really, I think the Jewish like Mossad and Rahm Emanuel and Bibi Netanyahu and all of them, I think they really got soft out here. Like, I'm getting to walk around and say the truth out loud, you know.
They got soft. I'm guessing, like, oh shit, that's the wrong layer. Let's step backwards on that. I need to put a new layer here. There we go. What does he mean by that? They got soft? I guess, is he implying that they would murder him because he's saying these things? See, that's always another thing whenever you get these conspiracy theorists and shit like Alex Jones or whatever. You know, if the cabal of, you know, Illuminati, Jewish reptilian overlords or whatever really were so powerful, Why would they allow someone to go out and spread the truth like this? That's something that's one of those paradoxes that you always get. Like, well, if all the shit you're saying is actually true, and if they can actually do all the crap that you say they can do, how come they wouldn't just murder you? And nobody ever really seems to address that issue. Like, maybe it's because what you're saying is bullshit. Maybe it's because there isn't a cabal of robed baby brain drinking Satanists that run the world. Maybe everything you're saying is complete horseshit, and there isn't a giant group of people with that have you in the laser crosshairs. Maybe it's because you're not important. You're just a fucking kook, and the only difference between you know Kanye West and the guy that lives down the street from you who spends all day in his basement with a tinfoil hat on, hiding from Russian radio waves and shit being beamed into his skull. The only difference is that Kanye West has $1 billion and the crazy guy down the street doesn't. Maybe that's what's actually going on. I don't know.
Oh no, they got him dropping headphones over here. But yeah, Jesus is king. Really, I just lean into what Christ needs me to do, and I'm 1,000% faithful as I can be as a man, and I repent for the things where I fall short. But the only way for us to bring America back to where it needs to be, this is a Christian country, and it needs to be ran by Christian leaders that don't bow to Jared Kushner, that don't bow to...
And then, of course, you got, here goes fucking Nick Fuentes here, nodding along like a little chihuahua. That's what he is, like a little lap dog there. It always gets me, if you actually thought God was real, do you think God would like it if you're, racist? If you're an anti-Semite? Jesus Christ is Jewish. He came from a Jewish family. He was a Jewish person himself. So, do you think God would like it if you actually believed that Jesus Christ was real? Do you think it was real? Do you think he's gonna like it when you go out and spread Nazi talking points? That's the first thing. Second thing, that's what I just wanted to kind of show. This is what Kanye West is. He's a Christian nationalist, is what he is. And that's what Nick Fuentes is as well. Nick Fuentes is, although I don't believe that Nick Fuentes is a very religious person. I think Nick Fuentes is doing it because he's kind of like he doesn't actually believe, but this is what he's sort of crafted his audience to. He may believe in God and all that stuff, but he definitely doesn't. He's not a very devout Catholic. It's not like Nick Fuentes goes to fucking church every week. That's bullshit. And I'm pretty sure if the Pope were to come out and say some things that were contrary to what Nick Fuentes believes, he would tell the Pope to fuck off. You're not supposed to do that when you're a Catholic. If you're a Catholic and the Pope says something, you're supposed to obey, right? Because the Pope is supposed to be God's representative on earth. So if the Pope comes out, says abortion is all right, then you're supposed to accept that. If the Pope comes out and says it's okay to use birth control, then you're supposed to accept that. If the Pope comes out and says that racism is wrong and anti-Semitism is wrong, then you're supposed to do what the Pope says, right? Nick Fuentes doesn't give a fuck about the actual Pope because he's not an actual devout Catholic. He's just using that as basically a framework to spread his hate and racism and anti-Semitism, right? Nick Fuentes does not like black people, yet he's hanging out with a black man because it furthers his political interests. He said it multiple times on his show, right? This is not slander. I'm not slandering Nick Fuentes. Okay, he has many times on his show said white people are superior, you know, and has spread racist talking points, things like, bogus fucking, things like fucking, like bogus FBI statistics and shit like that. He's done that many fucking times, right? And yeah, so why is he hanging out with fucking Kanye West? Because Kanye West is rich, and he can use them to further his own aims. It's sort of a win-win for Nick Fuentes here, because when Kanye flames out like he eventually will, and withdraws or whatever and gets committed to a mental asylum or whatever the fuck is going to happen to Kanye West, Nick Fuentes wins because he has advanced his own standing. He's gotten more exposure in the last 2 months being Kanye's little fucking lapdog than he has in the last 5 years. He's been on multiple podcasts that people would never allow him on before, right? He's been in the news. People are talking about him on mainstream news channels, on Fox News, on MSNBC, on fucking, you know, shit like that, right? He's all over the place. He's hitting national attention. So this is great for him, right? So he wins, and then even if Kanye does manage to go on to actually gain some power, he wins. When Kanye doesn't, which he's not going to, when Kanye fucking like, crashes and burns or whatever, which is going to happen pretty soon, doesn't matter. He's managed to fucking like expand his sphere of influence, I guess, and gain a shitload of new followers and make a shitload of money. So that's what's actually going on with Nick Fuentes. He's basically just grifting Kanye right now is what he's doing. It's the same reason Milo Yiannopoulos was there too, by the way, just to grift and make money. But anyway, moving on.
To Rahm Emanuel, you already know DeSantis is a fake conservative. We don't even know who the Democrats are going to put up. And yeah, that's my answer to that.
Okay, I'm going to have an intervention here for you and Nick, and let me just make a case. Yes, there are almost 80 to 90% of Hollywood is Jewish, probably more. Media, yeah, I'm going to say like 80% of media is Jewish.
Okay.
But I see the Jews we're talking about in these cases as liberal elites, high IQ people, whites, and when you have, like, they're disproportionately represented in medicine too, because they have high IQs. So
this is his fucking intervention. This is his intervention by he's basically saying. He's saying in so many words everything that. All right. Let's let him finish what he's saying before I comment on it.
The problem isn't these Jews, and most of them are secular Jews, atheists. I don't see Soros as Jewish. So we have these secular, mostly atheist Jewish people with high IQs who dominate fields that tend to require high IQs. They're overrepresented in chess and mathematics too. So the real issue here, and there is an ethnomasochism, there is some sort of like, let's burn it to the ground. But I think that trait is a white trait, a liberal elite white trait. Oh, not even white per se, a liberal elite trait. Kamala Harris, Barack Obama, they also have these traits. And there's some sort of like lemming DNA in white people where when they reach a certain amount of success, they just want to take it off a cliff. And I don't like when Jews get pulled into that, because when I think of my Orthodox Jewish friends and even my Hasidic friends, these people are conservative, Trump-supporting, American patriots.
Okay. So he's trying to claim that it's really liberalism you're against. You're not against Jewish people. All right. Gavin McInnes obviously doesn't give a fuck. I think he's also flirted with anti-Semitism himself as well. So what he's basically trying to say is that it's liberalism that you're objecting to and not Jewish people. Still, the way that he worded that, yeah, kind of sounded like he was agreeing with everything that Kanye was saying, didn't it? Oh, the Jews are overrepresented. Oh, they are over here, and they're in medicine as well, and all this other crap. Kind of. I mean, McGinnis knows where his audience is. So right now, there's a lot of people at home watching this interview, basically agreeing with Kanye West. A lot of McGinnis's fans, right? I mean, let's not forget the guy created a fucking militia, street gang that goes out and, beats up black people. That's what they do. And commies and stuff like that. And, the whole, like, Jewish people are like running a secret communist cabal that takes over the entire world thing. I mean, that's, a conspiracy theory which is very prevalent amongst his followers, right? So it's like, I don't know, it's just, that was just a very convoluted way of trying to blame liberals and not Jewish people, because there's Trump supporting Jewish people. Yeah, okay. That makes fucking sense. God, I don't know. It's just sort of like we're watching one like Hitler loving anti-Semite talk to another Hitler loving anti-Semite, but basically McGinnis is trying to do the like calm it down. You don't really mean that. You mean this. Like, Alex Jones did the same thing. Alex Jones was trying to like bring sanity to him, be like, you're not really an anti-Semite, and then throughout all of Alex Jones's interview, like fucking Kanye was like, no, I really am. You don't really love Nazis. No, I really love Nazis. Like, he kept saying that over and over, like trying to bring him back. Like, I don't know. Let's see if Kanye goes for the bait here. Let's see if Kanye actually manages to like understand what he's saying, because what McGinnis right here is trying to do is basically give him an out and try to say, no, don't say that you hate Jewish people. Say that you hate liberals, and that'll bring you back into the mainstream. Because then that'll allow all of his followers to like post that clip and be like, see, this is what he's really talking about. What he really means is he hates Barack Obama, and he hates liberals, and he hates Democrats, and he hates all this other shit. And he doesn't really hate Jews. He loves Jews, right? Let's see if Kanye actually goes for it.
And the Jews that are getting lumped in with this sort of ethnomasochistic cultural suicide tend not really to be Jewish. I call them ginos, Jews in name only. It's liberal elite whites you should have a beef with.
Yeah, but I lump them all in together. That's what I did. That's
good.
That's why the tweet said that, Jewish people.
Okay.
Nope.
But this trait, like...
Didn't go for it. Didn't do it. So McGinnis tried to give him a life. Now, is this... you gotta hand it to Kanye. At least he's honest. I mean, he's being an honest piece of shit. Because when you say that, at least he's honest. It makes it sound like that's a good quality. It's like, well, he's being honest about being a complete piece of shit. He's not trying to hide it. That was it. That was the opportunity to put the mask back on. And nope, Kanye wants to be mask off about it. He doesn't want to hide his anti-Semitism, doesn't want to hide his hate, his bigotry. Okay. Is he too fucking stupid to understand that's what that was? Does he just not understand that, hey, this is how you have... Because that's what everybody's been trying to do for him. Every time he goes and does an interview with one of these far-right assholes, with Alex Jones, with fucking, like, Tucker Carlson, whatever, Tim Pool, whenever he tries to do that, they always try to give him this out. Like, in every interview I've seen so far with Kanye West, they've always tried to give him this out, and he never fucking takes it, right? Is it okay to call him a Nazi yet? He doesn't, he's kind of sounds like he fucking is. Okay, moving on.
Blacks are overrepresented in violent crime. But when you meet an individual black person, you don't apply that. You start with a fresh slate every time you meet someone. Do you do that with Jews?
Nope.
Straight up.
This intervention isn't going very...
Well, I mean, we should believe the man when he says these things. We should believe the man. So what he just did right there, that is the very definition of bigotry. right there, right? Gavin McGinnis, that was the biggest fucking olive branch ever that McGinnis tried to hand to him. You know, you don't use stereotypes when you meet black people. Do you do it with Jewish people? And he goes, nope. You know, he just like, do you come with a clean slate when you meet Jewish people? He said, nope. Well, that's what bigotry is. When you when you don't judge someone by their own character, but rather from stereotypes. You know, if I were to do that, if I were to, like, say, meet a black person and then assume that they were a criminal because, you know, of the stereotype that black people are all criminals. Because of, let's say, I don't know, I read some FBI statistics one time on a website that said 50% of the violent crime is perpetrated by black people, even though they make up 13% of the population. For example, let's just say I read that somewhere. And then if I were to, like, believe that when I met a black person, they were a criminal because I read that, because of that thing that I read, that would be the very definition of bigotry. That's what bigotry is, right? This is why you don't want to do that. You don't assume every black person you meet is a criminal. You don't assume every Muslim you meet is a terrorist. You don't assume every Jewish person you meet is greedy or a banker or, like, fucking runs a bagel shop. Right? You know, you don't assume every Asian you meet is super good at math. Right? And, like, you know, doesn't speak English, right? Or knows kung fu. You don't assume any of these things, because if you do that, that's bigotry. You know, they don't all have to be negative things either. They can be there's such thing as positive stereotypes as well. You know, you don't assume every black man you meet has a giant dong, for example. That's kind of a positive stereotype, isn't it? I mean, it is for, you know, it is for them, right? You shouldn't assume that either. You shouldn't assume that every white person you meet is rich or well off, or you shouldn't assume every white person you meet is a racist. These are all stereotypes, right? When you do that, that's bigotry. You're assigning characteristics to somebody based on not their own actions, but on preconceived notions of what they should be. That's what bigotry is. I don't think we can make that any more clear. Can you? I don't think, you know, I really don't think that Kanye can make that any more clear. That's what he is. I want to watch a little bit here at the 27 mark, because Nick Fuentes says some shit that I think we should respond to right around 27 minutes in. And then we'll read some comments and then we'll end this. But anyway.
Woke DAs, it's like Berkeley and Portland times 1,000. That's not a Jew thing. That was whites wanting to sabotage themselves.
Well, I don't think that the Jews are particularly ethno-masochistic. If you look at all the blowback to Ye, they're very defensive, they're very paranoid, you could say, almost pathologically paranoid about threats to their well-being. I agree with you that liberalism is a poison. I'm not a liberal, and I think that liberalism has poisoned the well for white people, but if you look at white kids, there's nothing, I don't think, intrinsic in white people that makes them hate themselves. Like, when I was a kid, kids loved Hitler, in the sense that we see the videos and we see the propaganda and the symbols, and there's something compelling about it just on an aesthetic level.
What? I've never heard that before. When you were a little kid, like 8 years old, all your friends liked Hitler?
Well, maybe not 8 years old, but on 4chan and on the internet.
Okay, yeah.
Very
Teenage.
popular. And that's not to say anything about murder or discrimination or prejudice, but there is something compelling about pride in your people and these kinds of things. And by the way, who were the architects of leftism? People always point the finger at cultural Marxism. Cultural Marxists got kicked out of Germany by Hitler because they were Jewish leftists.
A lot to unwrap there. First off, the whole thing about white people poisoning themselves through liberalism. That's a load of fucking shit. Want to comment a little bit on his comment there where he said kids love Hitler. On 4chan and stuff like that. I gotta remember Nick Fuentes is, how old is this guy? He's like 26 or something like that. He's really young. I want to look up how old exactly he is exactly, right? If Google must think that I'm like a fucking white supremacist because I'm keep searching for these guys all the time. He is 24, born in 1998. Wow. Yeah, kids love Hitler. I think this is a good example of how radicalization has just seeped in through. I mean, look at what he mentioned. He said 4chan specifically, right? So if you got your kids out there, folks, if you have children, this is why you need to pay attention to what they're doing on the internet. I mean, right around the time Nick Fuentes was 14 or what year would that be? That would be 2012? 2012, right in the middle of the Obama administration, right? And this is when 4chan started to really ramp up with like Poll, and basically the neo-Nazis kind of took over. 4chan wasn't always a fucking white supremacist hellhole. It wasn't. That was something like way back in the day, 4chan was actually a force for good. If you guys remember things like Project Chanology and stuff like that, where they would like go out and like protest Scientology, that kind of thing. That's, 4chan was sort of taken over, like, by those people because there's no moderation there. And this is what happens when you have sites like this where there's not, because that's what happened, like, especially in the web, like early web 2.0 days, every place that didn't have sufficient moderation, it was only a matter of time before Nazis showed up, right? Before white supremacists showed up and started spreading their shit around. And it happens even today. Even today, if you have a even in the web 3.0, I guess is what you would call it today, the social media era, if you have a Facebook group that doesn't have any moderation on it, if you have a subreddit without any moderation on it, if you have a Discord server where there's no moderation, the Nazis will fucking show up. There was for crying out loud, there was a Club Penguin Discord that I found was spreading around like Nazi shit because they were linking to one of my videos that I had. I have a video about the 56% face that I get a lot of views on, which is mainly all the views on that video are fucking neo-Nazis like making fun of me and shit, which is whatever, that's fine. I don't give a fuck. But still, it's like, well, where are they? And then I find out it was like a Club Penguin Discord server, for crying out loud. Club Penguin's a fucking Disney show. It doesn't matter. They invade anywhere where they can to spread their bullshit around. Right? And Nick Fuentes is a fucking casualty of that. This is why the shit matters, folks. This is why it matters, like, what your kids are doing. Like, pay attention to this. And this is why, like, you can't take this sort of online radicalization, like you can't just ignore it. Moderation matters. So this is why it matters when, for example, like, let's turn this shit off. We're getting close to the end here. Maybe we'll continue on with this later. Maybe because there's still like, I mean, we only got about 10 minutes in, and there's still a shitload in this interview that I wouldn't mind actually exploring. So maybe on Tuesday or Wednesday we'll do another stream before Christmas. But you know, this is why it matters, right? Because when somebody like Kanye West goes out and spreads this stuff, because Nick Fuentes was a child when somebody like Nick Fuentes was a child when all of this, when white supremacist like talking points were being spread willy nilly throughout the internet. And now, how much has he done himself personally to spread hate and fear? Nick Fuentes has like hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of followers across his various websites and things like that. He's gaining power. He's on national TV. Now he's on all these like he's in the news. People are talking about him on fucking like you know bona fide mainstream news stations. How many followers is he gaining here? You know, and what kind of violence is this going to fucking lead to in the future, right? I mean, we just saw assault in New York City up in just a month since they were talking about all this shit. And this is why this stuff matters, right? Here's one more thing I want to end with here before we go away. Here, this is before we end this. One more little story here about why it matters, why platforming Nazis and stuff is. This is always shit that you need to fight against, right? Here's another story. Elon Musk brought an infamous neo-Nazi back to Twitter. Right. So, if those of you guys have not understood, or not known, but like been paying attention to the whole Elon Musk debacle over on Twitter, he's leaned super hard right. He just went the other day and banned a whole bunch of journalists, a lot of them left-leaning journalists, progressive journalists, for reporting on his various shenanigans, right? Including Matt Taibbi, or not Matt, Matt Binder, one of the guys that got kicked, which if you don't know, please follow him on YouTube. He's awesome. This particular article is about a guy named Andrew Anglin, infamous neo-Nazi Andrew Anglin, right? So please read this article when you have a chance. I don't want to go through the whole thing, but long story short, Andrew Anglin is the this is my desktop background. Let's turn that off. Andrew Anglin is the creator of the Daily Stormer, which is one of the premier neo-Nazi websites on the internet. Elon Musk just let him back onto Twitter, along with dozens of other alt-right neo-Nazi types, people like Baked Alaska, for example, shit like that. All these people are all back on Twitter. They're going to spread their shit around. And it matters, Twitter, I mean, when you compare something like Twitter to 4chan, like millions of people go to 4chan, but 4chan is still somewhat underground. It's not a thing that the mainstream in America pays attention to, right? Well, Twitter is. Everybody and their mom is on Twitter, and shit like tweets from like viral tweets have a way of spreading around like crazy. So, for the love of God, make sure your children are like informed about this stuff. If you have kids out there and your kids use the internet, pay attention to what your kids are doing, because they're going to turn out like Nick Fuentes if you don't. White supremacism is and anti-Semitism is being mainstreamed by people like Elon Musk and Kanye West. And it's getting worse and worse, folks. And it's I mean, maybe, what do we do about it? That's another discussion. Deplatforming, I think, works pretty well. That seems to have been working pretty well in order to stem the tide of the growth of these things. But the number one thing you can do is to talk to your friends and your family, and especially your children, about it. Make sure they're informed, right? Make sure you're paying attention to especially what your children are doing on the internet, and take it from there. Anyway, I really got to get out of here, guys. I have to go get vaccinated. I have to get my 4th vaccine. So thank you all for joining. Thank you, Lewis the Hedgehog. Great to see you as usual. And I saw that there were at least 12 other people who dropped in and out, so thank you guys as well. Um, you know, all my social media stuff, I'll put it down in the bottom afterwards. I really got to get on the road here, so I think we're going to do part two of this interview probably on Wednesday. Um, I will not have a stream on Christmas, obviously, because it's Christmas Day, but maybe we'll do our stream on Sunday as well. And before that next stream, I'm going to set up a Discord server. I'm going to actually do it, so I will make sure to hand out that link to everybody here. Give me a couple days and I'll get it going. Anyway, thank you all, for everybody, for joining out there. And everybody, you know, have a happy holiday or a Merry Christmas or whatever it is you celebrate. And stay vigilant. I will see you all next week. Adios.